Hey there, everybody, this is Caitlin here, and welcome back to Manga First Impressions. It's been a little while since we've had another edition in this series and whatnot, but that's just because I've been taking a bit of downtime, looking back at some manga that I've got in my collection, figuring what do I want to talk about, what ones do I maybe want to pick up. So I've got a couple of new titles that are going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks, whatever, as we get back into the swing of the series and everything like that. But for now, we're going to be taking a look at a bit of an older series that I kind of picked up quite a long while ago. It's actually one of the original series I managed to read pretty much all the editions of, but there are maybe some that I'm maybe missing because of like current updates and whatever. So, manga in question is actually Alice in the Country of Hearts, Wonderful Wonder World. Now, this has got like a little bit of history behind it, so I'm just going to explain briefly the history behind this before I dive into my thoughts on it and everything like that. As the camera shakes a little bit, my apologies for that. But in particular, Alice in the Country of Hearts was originally, I believe, it started off as a kind of visual novel slash dating sim game based around like loosely the concept of Alice in Wonderland. Essentially, you played through as Alice and you made your way into Wonderland, and several of the famous Alice in Wonderland characters were kind of like hot anime boys or whatever that you could date and you could like romance and stuff like that. And there were many of them. There was actually quite a lot of them. Practically almost every character I believe you could date. I can't remember whether you could date the Queen of Hearts because she's like the only character who isn't a girl. No, rather, isn't a boy, rather. I think she's the only girl, really, that we see in the series, other than Alice in particular. So, this manga kind of follows, I would like to say it follows, like, the neutral route, because Wonderful Wonder World doesn't actually show her dating any of the guys. It's more of her kind of, like, setting up the overall plot of, like, the world and everything like that, like, how she ended up in Wonderland, who all the people are and everything like that, because it's kind of different from the original story, and, like, yes, most of the characters are kind of, like, hot manga slash anime boys and whatnot, but there's actually like a different kind of story going on in the world as well. So mainly the idea of it is that there's three different factions for this. So you've got the Kingdom of Hearts, obviously, or the Country of Hearts rather, the kind of titular kind of kingdom and whatnot, run by the Queen of Hearts with her Prime Minister Peter White, which is the White Rabbit and whatnot. Then you've also got the Mad Hatter Mafia, run by the Mad Hatter himself, Blood Dupree. They've all got kind of like fancy real names based, but they're also known as their character names as well. And he's like assisted by like the March Hare, the Tweedle Twins, and whatnot. And then you've also got like an amusement park where that's where the Cheshire Cat lives. And there's like another character who I'm not quite sure which character he's based on in the book, but he's called Mary Goland or something like that. I'm not too sure, but basically there's like mafia, gangster, turf wars going on with the three factions and everything like that. There's blood and guns and everything, and then Alice is like kidnapped by Peter White here, where he's like, oh, you need to take part in the game. So she's forced to basically stay in Wonderland until she meets like lots of people or whatnot, because there's like a weird kind of viral thing that slowly fills up as she interacts with more people. So she's like kind of forced to interact with all the mad people of Wonderland and everything like that. But she's like, trying to like not get in the way too much because, these people don't really care too much about dying and death and all that stuff. There's like, you've got like all the main characters that have like faces, but then if I skip a couple of pages, you might actually see it. If I can find it actually, because there's not many bits where like it's a really clear shot. I'm not too sure. Here we go. So like, you've got a bunch of these characters who have no faces, and basically these are the everyday people, the ones that don't have an important character behind them. They are just like the everyday people that are disposable. They're not important or whatever. That's why there's so much bloodshed, because they can easily be replaced and whatnot. So it's more over where like you're introduced to the initial concept of the world, the story, the characters, and basically that's it. So this original run here focuses on like kind of like setting up the story and whatnot, and then afterwards I think it's like it ends on a cliffhanger specifically to try and entice you to buy the kind of side stories and whatnot, because there's many different spin-offs focusing on different dating routes. Like there's like a whole chapter series based on her dating the Cheshire Cat. There's one based on her dating like the Mad Hatter and whatnot. I believe the only one that doesn't really have a story is Peter himself. I think that's actually plot relevant as well. The reason why he's one of the only ones that doesn't have like a side spin-off series of him dating Alice. But I won't spoil too much about why that is. But basically, it is a really interesting series. If you are, like, it is technically based on a dating sim, so if you're not into those kind of, like, shoujo, like, is shoujo, or is it shonen? I'm pretty sure it's shoujo. If you're not interested in, like, those kind of, like, girly kind of ones where it's like, oh, the girl has lots of guys vying for her attention, and she needs to pick one and settle down with one of them and all this stuff, then maybe might not be your cup of tea. But, like, for people who are interested in, like, seeing, like, a different world or different twists in Alice in Wonderland, because there are so many different manga adaptations, inspired by, loosely based on, all those different things based on Alice in Wonderland. I think because it's such a really mad concept in and of itself, that's why a lot of people and a lot of like manga artists and storyboard artists and everything like that take inspiration from it. So if you're interested in like a different take on Alice in Wonderland, then I could definitely recommend it. I would also recommend reading quite a number of the side stories in themselves. In particular, I'm quite fond of the Cheshire Cat one because I think that's the longest adaptation. I think that had like 7 volumes. I think it's definitely the longest one out of all the different side stories. I know the Tweedle Twins only got 1. I believe who was it? Blood Dupree, who's like the Mad Hatter. He got at least 2, I believe. It's very hard. So, like, a couple of characters have, like, more books than others, which I guess shows a little bit of favoritism or whatever. I guess it's mainly just fan service depending on which character that you end up getting attached to or you're liking. So, yeah, there's, like, lots of stuff. The artwork is also very nice. It kind of changes somewhat in the side stories. There's, like, a main artist for this main line, and then I think there's 1 or 2 different artists for the side stories. So like some of them are drawn by the same artist of the original manga, and a couple of them have a different artist. I kind of pick and choose depending on who the artist is overall, because no offense to them, some of them I don't like actually the artwork for. So there's a side story with the caterpillar who's actually called Nightmare in this series, and he's got like 3 manga volumes or whatever like that, but I don't actually really like the art style of the artist that drew his story, so I haven't actually picked that one up yet, just because it's like it's not the same kind of pretty art style that I fell in love with from like the original manga. So that's the reason why I've not picked up those ones. But there's like whole different spin-offs of it. So like there's like Alice in the Country of Hearts, there's Alice in the Country of Clover, which is like clubs, and that's a whole different thing where it's like there's like different iterations of it. So like some characters exist in one world but they don't in another. So like some of the characters from the Country of Hearts don't exist in like the timeline of the Country of Clover and whatnot. So it can get a little bit confusing if like you're not too sure, especially since like it's based on a dating sim. So I think mainly this manga was made for people who are fans of the dating sim, but if you're just wanting to jump on as like a newcomer aspect, this one is definitely the one to start off with. I originally kind of got these like years and years ago. I believe I got this back when I was still at high school, and they had like a book club thing, and randomly the book club would sometimes have manga volumes on it. They usually only had like volume 1s of like really, really random ones in particular, so that's how I found out about this one and picked it up. And yeah, I got the rest of the volumes, and I quickly became addicted because I am obsessed with all things Alice in Wonderland related. So I would highly recommend it if you're into that kind of genre of things and whatnot. If not, then might not be your cup of tea. Get it because Alice in Wonderland. But I would highly recommend even just looking at the dating sim as well, the visual novel kind of thing, because it is really interesting. There's loads of different paths and whatnot. There's like lots of different cool character art for the characters and whatnot. I have to say my favorite is probably the Cheshire Cat, because he's just so awesome with like, he's got like a massive feather boa and whatnot. I'm not actually sure where he shows up in this one. He definitely, I think it's later on, is it? Yeah, because I can't really see him here, so he might be near the end of the book, because Cheshire Cat, who his real name is Boris, there he is. He's like my favorite out of all of them. He's like my favorite design out of all of them. He is just adorable when he's like standing there with Tweedle Twins and whatnot. So he's actually my favorite. I think he's my favorite out of all the different characters and whatnot. He is adorable. I love him. So yeah, if you're interested in seeing this, guys, then definitely pick it up. I highly recommend it if this is the kind of thing that you're into and everything like that. Next week, I think we're going to be looking at something quite different from this, not quite as like kind of family friendly and for all ages and whatnot, but next week's manga will definitely be interesting. So I highly recommend this, guys. If you are not maybe into this, then let me know what kind of manga you like. Do you prefer the kind of like, not the kind of romantic ones, do you prefer like the action based ones, like the real story driven ones that don't focus so much on romance and everything like that? But let me know, guys, what you think of this manga, and until next time, guys, I will see you all later.